Overnight, Bitcoin saw about a 6% pump to the upside. And this move has put Bitcoin back to that breakout zone territory. Testing back to the top side of this multi-week sideways range, the last time that Bitcoin was at these price levels was when the S&P 500 tested up to that March support as new resistance. And if we bring up the Bitcoin chart, the comparison here, it was about this day right here when Bitcoin tested up to that range and the S&P rejected that zone, sending Bitcoin back down. So far, the S&P has seen no immediate rejection, which makes things interesting. Right now, we're consolidating below resistance. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing the short-term action. We're going to be discussing upside targets, downside targets, and also taking a look at the macro trend because that is what's most important right now. All of this and more in today's video. Recently on this channel, about a week ago, we were discussing the potential of a relief rally. And since then, Bitcoin has seen a pump up, a dump back down, and now a pump back up. So the first attempt at the relief rally failed, but it looks like we're going for another try right now. Also, we discussed the long-term chart, how most likely over the next year we're going to be seeing a lot of sideways action. But today I want to focus on the more medium-term stuff. And before we get started, definitely smash that like button and also subscribe to this channel if you want to get more content. Be sure to hit that bell notification so you're always updated whenever I post. So looking at Bitcoin here from our 69K top in 2021, all the way down to our 25K low here this year, 2022. The most obvious thing about this chart is our downtrend. We have lower highs on the macro and lower lows on the macro. We basically have a macro downward sloping channel. And what we can see about this channel is that Bitcoin does have some room here above us within the channel. And we just saw a 9-week correction, right? This is the daily chart. If you go to the weekly chart, we saw 9 weeks to the downside. So seeing some kind of upside from this point to retest the top side of the channel seems like a possibility. Doesn't seem all that crazy. It seems like it could happen, right? And we're starting to see pretty good support come in. We're seeing higher lows here on the chart. The last time that we saw higher lows was after we dumped from 69K down over here to about 33K. We saw higher lows on the chart. And what did Bitcoin do when we found higher lows? We retested the top side of the price channel, of the downward sloping channel, right? And now we're seeing higher lows once again, just like we saw here. So it seems quite possible that Bitcoin would retest the top side of the downward sloping price channel. Since November, we've seen continued downside. So sellers are probably exhausted. We've already seen a lot of fear. So sellers are likely exhausted, and that could allow for some more upside here in the short term. Since our short-term shift back up to this higher low range, Bitcoin saw a pretty significant increase in volume on that low point, right? This is actually the most volume on the Coinbase chart that we've seen since 2021. Since that crash to 30,000, this is the most volume we've actually seen. So while in the short term it doesn't seem too impressive, it's actually quite good. This low point is looking pretty good. This will be at least some kind of low point. I mean, this will probably act as a long-term low point. Even if we do test slightly lower, I think that this range is likely going to be a low point. And for Bitcoin, whenever we find a major long-term low, we usually spend a little bit of time down there, test the low, come up, retest at least near the low before coming back up again. I mean, the same thing happened also over here, in 2014, 2015, we test the low, go sideways, retest down again, create a long base of support, right, for a year there. The better part of half a year long base of support right there. This is the monthly chart. And Bitcoin likely to play out some kind of longer term base of support before recovering in 2023. So yes, it is likely that we have more sideways ranging to create a stronger, longer base of support, right? That is what's most likely here on the monthly time scale. But in the more shorter term time frames, we're looking for a test back up to the downward sloping resistance before consolidating sideways. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you guys think we're going to get a recovery sooner rather than later? Or do you think we're going to get that classic bear market sideways action for Bitcoin and break out somewhere closer to the end of the year and sort of continue on this downward sloping channel? Let me know in the comment section below. And a lot of people are going to ask, is the bottom in? Well, we don't know that. We don't know if the bottom's in. But usually in bear markets, Bitcoin's bottoming near that 200 a week moving average, right? And it's likely that we might consolidate a little bit along that. At the lowest, I'd say we'd be closing weeklies at the lowest around that 20. Well, now it's going to become a little higher if we do end up going sideways. So by that time, at the lowest, a slightly lower low is possible. So slightly below 25K. But that weekly volume right there does give me some confidence, right? It does give me confidence that we are at least near a bottom. Another fantastic moving average to keep track of is the 128-day SMA. Recently, it's played a pretty big role in, calling these breakdowns, calling these breakouts, acting as strong support, right? Sort of catching that breakdown. When you're above it, you want to be holding a bullish bias. When you're below it, you want to be holding a bearish bias. Generally speaking, that is kind of how this moving average should be used. Here we did have a bit of a fake out, but what we're looking at now is that the 128-day is coming in just around that resistance of the downward sloping trend. So if the 128-day is touched, until we actually get a full breakout above that, right? Then it's still, still looking like a downturn, still maybe treat it with a bearish bias until we get a break of that moving average. And once we get above that, then it's looking like, once again, we can start to get a little bit more bullish here. This moving average did act as fantastic support indicator in that 2017 bull market as well. In 2017, that bull market, you could have pretty much just, bought right along that moving average for multiple years at a time, right? And it has played a great role, finding support there, breakdown signal, resistance right there. I mean, it's just been a fantastic moving average in general. Once you're back above it, you treat it with a bullish bias, right? And then over here, when you're below it, you're treating it with a bearish bias. And then it acts as resistance here. Amazing. 128-day SMA. Really good one. Of course, COVID, pretty wacky range right there. But once you're back above it, you're treating the market with a bullish bias. And it does maintain all the way up until our major breakdown right there, right? So we're below it now, which means we're still in a downtrend, which means, yes, treat the market with a bearish bias, but once we get above it, then it's looking pretty good for the bulls there. That 128-day SMA, the magical moving average. And guys, it honestly doesn't have to be all that complicated. We're in a downtrend. There's downside pressure. Short-term relief rally to resistance is a possibility, a strong possibility. But as long as we're below this resistance line, as long as we're below the 128-day, treat it with a bearish bias. And once we get a breakout above that with confirmation, then we can start to really get bullish. But until then, just look for that sideways action for many months, right? And that's it, guys. That's it for this video. Hope it helps to guide you through these bearish times. I appreciate all the people still here, all the people still smashing the like button, all the people still commenting and subscribing to this channel. That's it, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video.